Hello, hello, welcome back one and all. It's the summer split finally here. I am so excited to be able to bring you the first day of Academy. Myself, Mad Magical, joined in by the one and only, the beautiful man himself. It's Alberto Crumbs. Crumbs, how are you doing today?
Thank you, Matt. We were only looking this way because of your style suggestions, both with the jacket celebrating the return of Academy, the first of the LCS games to be actually shown because the LCS hasn't started. So here is where you'll actually get to see what the meta for North America is brewing. What kind of spicy picks we got? Because 11.11 is finally here.
It is, and a lot has changed. We also have Gwen and Viego, from what I have heard through the pipelines. That should definitely add a little bit of spice and some variety, since we know Viego, for a long time, has been not welcomed here on the competitive stage.
Yeah, I think that by now the bugs for Viego should have been resolved, and he's been flexed a bunch, but I think the Gwen has been the one that has been taking the world by storm because she is so powerful in three roles. We've seen the Gwen top, Gwen mid, Gwen in the jungle as well, and in Academy, you gotta experiment. These are where the teams feel like they have the opportunity to shine a little bit more, less constrained by the fact that they have to take these wins, that they has to go to Worlds. They can experiment, they can play to their strengths, and that's where the adaptation of new champions comes into play.
Especially with the new format we have here for the summer as we jump into the schedule of what we have in store for you today. It is going to be best of twos. We're not having any more best of one shenanigans. Now you can actually change how you want to be able to play. There's going to be more points up for grabs, as well as more of a chance to be able to see if you can experiment like you were talking about, Alberto.
Throwback. What a throwback to the best of 2 days so long ago. But yeah, we actually get to experiment more. That's been the criticism levied so many times. Oh, in the best of ones, you feel like you got to put everything on the line, not that much room to experiment. But now, I mean, it's not a best of three that you can still win, but you can still at least tie the score. It feels like you can experiment a little bit more, so I'm all for it. I think the more we can try to experiment with the formats, the more variety we'll see in our play, and we're gonna see that today.
Especially with our first matchup of the day. It's going to be Team Liquid Academy and TSM Academy. And for Team Liquid, they haven't changed anything. They've kept the roster the exact same, while TSM have actually changed up a little bit, if I recall. I do believe instead of Thubbit that it's Hyper stepping in, but I do want to make sure I double check that on our document that we got sent over about the team rosters.
Yeah, I think for TLA, it was a disappointing run that they had for Proving Grounds. They just didn't win the game there. So I like that you're not changing anything. There's obviously the approach of, all right, it failed entirely, scrap it all together, start again. Clearly it didn't work. But there's also the approach of, we know what our mistakes were and we trust in our ability to address them and improve this time around. And there is something to be said for maintaining a roster longer together over an entire year and seeing what dividends you can get from that. So I want to see if Team Liquid actually took the offseason to practice fairly well because of how drastic the patch changes have happened. So I look forward to seeing them back with the same lineup.
Well, especially because they did so well in the spring split. They finished second place just behind Cloud9 Academy. It was when it came to the Proving Grounds that it all seemed to fall apart for them. They didn't get a single win at Proving Grounds, while TSM Academy, a team that finished ninth, had to play in a lot of the Proving Grounds tournaments prior to that, had to prove themselves to be able to get back there, were able to do so, and then were able to have this crazy run in the lower bracket where it almost seemed like they were going to somehow make this miracle run, getting knocked immediately out by Zeus, and then barely falling short against Evil Geniuses Academy, finally when it became best of fives.
Yeah, and it's that extra ability to play more games that really helped them out. You can't deny it. In so many tournaments, you'd rather see the team that wins make the lower bracket run where they just play so much more. You get used to it. They warm up and suddenly they've got a story behind them, the narrative buff that's scaring all the other teams. Whereas Team Liquid just had to sit in the sidelines watching, waiting, didn't get to play that much. And I think that is what ultimately hurt them. But you live and you learn. I think they're here. They're here to fight. These are two of the premier organizations in the LCS, so they are not about to give up on any of these squads. They want to make sure that these teams are the very best of the best, considering the development and extra interest that teams have taken in their academy teams this year.
And yeah, we just got the proper graphic down there. You saw that Hyper is in for the jungle position as opposed to Bobbit before. Hyper coming in from Illinois State University. This player has been this hyper-aggressive jungler that we have seen throughout Proving Grounds, throughout the amateur and the collegiate scene. Now getting his chance here in Academy is going to be really interesting to see how he fits in with this TSM Academy roster because, as you had talked about, Team Liquid keeping it the same, keeping it consistent, maybe getting a little bit more practice. Now with TSM bringing in a new jungler, I wonder how that changes things.
I think that in the new patch, it's going to help them out a lot because the name says it all. He's aggressive, right? You want to imagine that he's hyper aggressive. That's why you name yourself that way. So many times players name themselves after the playstyle they want to embody. And so if he's playing this way, we're already past 11.10, which was the addition of the extra timers on the jungle camp. So you can have more opportunity to gank. Now, sorry to disappoint you all. Udyr is still very relevant, right? The same champions we still knew from MSI and all year long are still being massively played, but now they're getting target banned, right? Now they're getting banned. Right. Now there are other opportunities to play the jungle role, and so that is giving us more creativity and perhaps the chance for these hyper-aggressive junglers to prowl upon the junglers that have been too complacent with the just farm-to-win playstyle.
Well, see, and when I think Hyper, too, I always think is Lee Sin, one of the strongest things I've seen out of him. His Graves, too, he loves to fall back onto that, even if it's a slightly different style from how you'd normally expect a hyper-aggressive jungler. He plays it very aggressively. I've seen at level 2, even on Graves, going for an invade just because he can, and says, all right, I'm going to skill check this person. I'm going to see how they're going to be able to handle themselves against me. And going against Armao on the other side, Armao, it's really curious to see how these two are going to be. You have one of the newer players going up against a player that is a lot more veteran status here in Academy.
The experience Armao got this year was just unrivaled. Nobody in the LCS Academy circuit matched that when he got to sub in for Santorin in the LCS finals and go to best of 5 all the way to the very end against Cloud9, right? That was huge. I think you learned so much from that. So he has been in positions in playoffs before under TSM and other teams, but I think this time around going that distance on a team as decorated as Team Liquid has to have helped it a lot. I think that it's going to revitalize Team Liquid, and they already finished second in the regular season last split, so I think that they're going to be even better this time around.
And I am curious, going back into how we're changing things up with the format. Before, you know, it was just the best of ones, and so a lot of different crazy things could happen. In fact, we saw in the spring split how narrow and how tight things were between third place all the way down to seventh place, where I think it was within 2 games for all those positions. Well, now with the best of 2s and being able to get more points based off how you're able to perform, if you can get a 2-0, getting the 3, getting just a 1-1, 1 point each piece. If people don't remember how best of 2 format generally works, just kind of giving them a little bit of a refresher since, God, what was the last time we saw best of 2s there, Crumbs? Wasn't that 2017?
I remember it in the LEC. What was the EU LCS? I thought that was the last time that we had the best of 2s, but in the LCS, I don't even remember. It's been a long time. We've messed with formats for a while, but that's what changes up, right? You're not ready. League of Legends is a game about adaptation. You gotta go with it.
Exactly. And if you're not able to prepare and how you're going to be able to change, it's going to make it difficult. And I feel like TSM Academy are a squad that have been accustomed to change. Yurson in the bot lane for their support was a player who joined in only March of last split. He joined in very late. Fizzy had been playing for him before that. So you have a team that's already kind of been used to swapping things out, and we already mentioned Hyper stepping in. I'm really curious to see how Peter Zhang, the coach, is going to be able to change things up with them, how he's going to be able to make them all mesh immediately. Otherwise, I feel like that's where the advantage lies with Team Liquid Academy, the fact that this roster has been together now for going on to their second split.
That is an advantage. It can also play against you, right? So many times teams get like, oh, tired of playing with you when I go somewhere else. But I don't think we're there yet for a Team Liquid. But you're talking about Yurson and Peter Zhang. I think that Peter Zhang's strength, from what I have seen in his experience in Proving Grounds, is bringing up new players. That's why he's now in the academy role, right? He's very good at bringing somebody up to speed from what it means to be a solo queue player or an individual player into fitting as a greater part of a team. And so this is where you bring somebody new and you can quickly integrate them into the lineup, and suddenly you click faster than other teams that don't have that kind of specialty.
Right, and sadly, that's just where a lot of these strengths in the earlier season can kind of lie, when you're a little bit more practiced with one another and you have that strength together as a unit, opposed to a team that might be working together more recently, trying to be able to figure out how they want to slot in Hyper compared to how Bip had played before. But I feel like even though it's a new player, it's a similar style. But Bip was a pretty aggressive jungle prior. Hyper, I feel like it's going to be a little bit more aggressive. And I'm curious with how the changes to jungle, you had mentioned the increased jungle timers on when things respawn. So decreased clear speed might be able to impact things for TSM Academy when we jump into Champion Select and what they might want to draft.
Well, Bip really liked his Nidalee, which paired very well with aggressive physical damage laner. So I think right now we might be a little bit past the Nidalee phase, but there's still plenty of other champions to combo with. So I'm curious to see what Hyper will actually prioritize, just because on red side, you now have the added bonus of presenting flexibility to your solo lanes and the jungle pool as well. There's so many champions that can be flexed 3 ways that have been so meta. The Nocturnes, the Rumbles, now the Gwen, which was banned, and maybe even the Nautilus makes a return in the jungle. It got buffed 11.11. People are trying it. We don't know how good it's going to be, but when it comes to finding a gank, you can't get better than that.
That is true, and I love Nautilus. He's one of my favorite champions, so seeing him in more than just the supportive role would be a lot of fun to be able to see. But as we jump into Champion Select, we actually see a pretty decent hit on the flexibility coming in from Team Liquid Academy, taking away Renekton and Lucian, while TSM Academy feeling like they have to ban what is powerful. Gwen and Lulu taken away, since Lulu has that flexibility, kind of talked about that before, but also Gwen, you had mentioned it, the 3 different roles that she can play.
Yeah, and on red side, I think we can start to expect this is a pretty much guarantee ban on red side teams. You just can't let the Gwen go first picked. It's so difficult. And Diego banned. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, this is kind of what we expected. I know they're new. Everyone's been practicing them, so they're understanding how strong these picks are. Newsflash, giga broken. Both are giga broken. So it's going to be unlikely that we see them unless somebody has a specific rehearsed strategy against them. By now, these players should be well acclimated with both to know that it's very difficult to counter either.
Exactly, and so with that ban, we see Udyr getting onto the bench himself by TSM Academy, but this leaves Rumble, this leaves Morgana. These are Morgana, I'd say, is one of the premier junglers at the moment. Same with Rumble being pretty high tier, especially when you take away that Rumble, but also the flexibility, because we know Jenkins likes to play things like this Rumble, but also his Kennen, something that is of legends. If you've ever watched Jenkins play Kennen, you know what I'm talking about.
I'm glad you mentioned Jenkins' Rumble, because the flexibility here is going to be critical. This is the patch where already Rumble has been nerfed, so his overheat damage is going to be a little bit lower, so he's not going to be able to power through the jungle just as quickly as he was before. And Lee Sin on the red side. It's another flex. This is what the drafts are going to turn into for the next split, so buckle up. It's just going to be a lot of confusion until you get to the very end. That makes the drafting more exciting, in my opinion, because the coaches now have to just draft what they think is very strong and not so much about what you could react to what the opponent is doing. And this, to me, I think is just an instant Diana jungle. She has been dominating high elo because her 2-item team fighting is impeccable. Just so much damage, so much CC, sees you clumped up, instantly deletes you.
And I believe the only thing really that does so well into Diana would be something like an Olaf, which means that you'd have to flex that Rumble out, put it into someone else's hands, maybe Hayri, since they've locked in that Gangplank, another one of those powerful picks. And even though Gangplank, you can make an argument, he's flexible. You talked about Nautilus, they're flexible. Now we're getting a better picture of what we're expecting coming in from Team Liquid. More than likely, Armeo going to be playing this Rumble. More than likely, Jenkins going to be playing this Gangplank, Ayla on Nautilus. Even on the other side, TSM probably going to be Haunter onto that Lee Sin, Hyper onto the Diana, then Yurson onto Lina.
It's a good team fight, what we're getting out of Team Liquid. It's a lot of setup for both Rumble and the Gangplank. The Nautilus ultimate now will have the Equalizer stacked on top of the Gangplank ultimate, It's a lot of damage. You don't want to be caught in that mess as an immobile pick. So far, there's not that many of it, but even a champion like Lee Sin can get locked down and hurt pretty badly from that. TSM does answer with the Leona, though, so they are opting up to teamfight. It does pair very well with the Diana, proccing the lunar or the sunburst that she's got. But more interestingly than that is that Leona versus the Nautilus is a matchup that Leona wins in the lane, but for the Nautilus, it's so much easier for the roams. It's so much easier to win these team fights, to be relevant, right? The hook is just so wide. You're just throwing things blindly. You're fishing with dynamite. Leona has to thread the needle, think about who she's auto-attacking, has to actually aim her ultimate. It's point and click. Nautilus is the easiest of them all.
I was watching a game. I was casting a game a couple weeks back with the Nautilus, and there's a minion. It looked like the minion should have body blocked the hook, but somehow it looked like it almost curved around. The bullet got curved past this minion, landing onto the ADC, and I'm like, that's a bit powerful there, isn't it, my boy Nautilus? But you know, sometimes that's how it be when you have a champion like Nautilus. He is throwing a massive anchor at people, so it makes sense that it's going to be able to land onto some of these targets, but getting away from our Nautilus boy and going down to that bot lane. Sivir and Ezreal banned away by Team Liquid, really hitting that champion pool, and then Set getting locked in. I kind of like the Set pick because they already have the AP out of Diana, plus making it so that they're going to have a good front line to be able to join up this Leona is perfect.
Yeah, and I like this Set pick because we've been seeing all of these highlight clips of pentakills from Set where he goes just AD and health instead of trying to prioritizing the resistances because his Haymaker got buffed, right? He does more damage from that than before, so they're prioritizing his ability to be an actual damage dealer and not just a big beefy frontliner. So this could be a very exciting diving comp. You already have Diana and Set comboing together, and TL Academy responds by keeping their distance from them. The Tristana and the Kai'Sa will try to just stay as far away from the Set, Diana, the Leona, and even the Lee Sin, right? You just create enough distance that the engage becomes either too obvious or it's easy for you to either ult or just jump away. And that's what they'll be counting on to disengage from what TSM Academy has drafted.
Plus, I love Buster Shot into either Lee Sin or Diana, being able to knock them away so they're not able to do what they need to do, which is lock down targets long enough, get the kicks off. But we see the final pick coming in from Cody-san. Going to be that Xayah. So they are pretty much just saying, Cody-san, you're on your own island. We're ditching you during these team fights. Good luck, have fun with your Featherstorm, because we are fully engaging. We don't care if they have that long-range disengage in Tristana and Kai'Sa. We are going to try to kill them before they can run away.
Cody, your team this game is your ultimate button. You're going to have to press that one very wisely because the Nautilus ultimate is probably the biggest one, but then the Gangplank ultimate is such a difficult one to know if you have to ultimate because early on, not a big deal, but later on, you might just have to ult out of the GP because the slow and damage is just so harsh. I see a big range advantage already on the side of Team Liquid. Covered it already, but you're looking at 4 melees on the side of TSM Academy and none that have a range harass or a ranged engage ability. They need to be in your face to deal damage. And you're walking into a Rumble and a Gangplank. So I think TL has come out with a pretty good draft that allows them to execute against what TSM has. Oh, the question is now, how quickly can TSM pull the trigger? Because Leona, Diana, Set, and Lee can engage out of nowhere.
But it also does feel like that is a timer on TSM Academy, on what they're going to be able to do. Well, yes, they're going to be aggressive. You want them to be able to find these creative flanks and be able to get these picks. They're not able to make it all work by 20 minutes. It's a good scaling composition on Team Liquid Academy's side. They got a Gangplank, they got Tristana, they got Kai'Sa. Even Rumble is going to hit hard in the late game that if you don't win fast enough, eventually you just get outscaled.
TSM I think they can do well in the late game. They also just have to be really good about how they find these fights because they don't have the range. They actually have a ton of damage. They just need to get into the backline. And destroying early turrets is really useful for that. If you fall behind early game and you don't have plate gold or you don't have the ability to get deep wards that make for better flanks, then you're going to be stuck in a lane against the range advantage that you're going to have a hard time overcoming. So I think that TSM will have to just have really fast fingers this game and probably prioritize the good gank setup that you've got in the top lane. But as long as TL plays safe and they don't give away much early, the onus falls on TSM to make plays happen.
And that is always a tricky thing when it comes to a game like this, where you're the ones who have to be proactive, because if you ever fall and get a little too complacent, well, then your whole identity of what you've drafted this composition to play aggressively, to find these flanks, to dive deep into enemy lines, cannot get offline. It cannot do what it needs to do to be able to, as you said, get those plates, get the gold necessary to keep snowballing out of control.
And they have had a lot of wards to control this early game. 3 already dropped on the side of TSM. So they're not going to have those available for some early gank shenanigans if Armao wants to pull any of that off. So he's starting on the bot side, pathing towards top. Same thing with the Diana, which I always love to see in the early game, junglers pathing in the same direction, because it gives us the greater chance of a gank and a counter gank happening very early on.
Oh, okay. I don't know why it jumped over to Hyper. I thought he flashed, and I was like, that is that's a unfortunate misclick, but it was just his E. It was just the E Lunar Rush. That was my bad. But going back and
it looked like it. I don't blame you. Like, it's shiny. It's a shiny skin that's got the yellow glow around it.
Right.
Easy mistake.
Thank you, Alberto. I'm glad that I'm not that crazy. But, it's okay, because right now we are getting a little bit of a fight top lane, which is expected. The Lee Sin is considered one of the strong laners who always wants to see if he can rumble. But unfortunately, Jenkins, he's been getting a good trade into Haunter and making it so that this Lee Sin is going to have to think twice if he wants to try to go for a full-on engage soon.
The Lee Sins get cocky. He did get a little bit of a nerf to his Tempest again, an extra second added. Not a big deal, but still taking him out of that crazy power zone. And it's that early trading in the top lane that the junglers smell. They smell the blood in the water. They know that they got to come up there, because the lower they are, the better the chances are that their opposing jungler is also there, sniffing it out, knowing that the wave is being fought for, that these guys are trading back and forth, and that Gangplank is running low on supplies. He's on his last charge of the Corrupting Potion, and they're about to go for the crab, but seems like Diana will back off. Jenkins has already won this lane, right? The wave is shoving back. He's going to be safe.
He's going to be safe, even though taking the Sonic Wave. Getting a lot of damage coming in from Haunter, but as you had mentioned, it's those Corrupting Pot stacks that are keeping Jenkins so safe, and being able to get the slow push. With the level lead over Lee Sin, it's a feels bad moment in this top lane. If you're Lee Sin, you picked this to be able to skill check, to be able to show this expression in the top lane, especially against something like a Gangplank that, even if he's kind of decent in the lane with the grasp, he's not going to be that full-on lane bully like a Lee Sin is.
And he gets to be this aggressive right now because he knows he's got a big wave that he can use defensively. And his Rumble was just in the top side clearing crab, right? Diana did not show up, so she must have gone for the bottom crab, or at the very least reset. So our male can calculate, hey, there's 2 options that Hyper has gone for. And because the crab top has not been taken, he's either based or gone for this bottom crab. You are safe, Jenkins, to play up top, and so he does that by teleporting back into the lane. Had they not played off of this information, he'd be still walking back to the lane, taking advantage of that. But by TPing back with the Sheen, he can keep the pressure up and make sure that Haunter doesn't get his teleport off. Ooh, good harass.
This is something yeah, it is great harass coming in from Jenkins, but I want to applaud Armeo, and this is what we saw, in the semifinals, how intelligent he is, and it's allowing Jenkins to play this aggressively. Parlay! He gets a solo kill first blood top lane.
So Jenkins is practiced on this Gangplank. He is looking good on this pick, really taking it to Haunter. The CS is one thing, but just knowing the wave control and with the Sheen purchase, Haunter did not respect that there was going to be that much damage. Should have looked at the resets of the trial by fire of Gangplank. That was what really did it for him in the end.
Oh, they're going to be safe, but yeah, going back to that top lane, just applause going out to Jenkins on how he's been able to play this one. And in a matchup that normally you'd favor towards Lee Sin, being this champion that likes to try to see if he can get that early base damage. You just see right here with the Sheen and how he's able to utilize this damage.
Yeah, procs the trial by fire after killing the barrel, and then has it, and then Haunter's just done. He knows he's burning down. Corrupting Potion, double dot damage out of Jenkins. Just GP is not an easy champion to lane against.
he's not. Especially a good GP like Jenkins. He loves his champions almost as much as he loves his Kennen. And this is forcing Hyper now to have to play around this top side to try to see if they can contain Jenkins, not let him be able to snowball, because whether or not a Gangplank snowballs doesn't really matter. He's going to be scary as a threat late game, but if he snowballs too, that late game is coming a lot sooner.
This is the real danger zone, though. He cannot get in range of getting kicked. That's what Hansu's looking for. Watch him safe the safeguard. All right, he popped it right now with a big wave. He at least sees that there's no point playing aggressive here. Just cool it off. You know you're going to get a lot of farm here because there's nothing that they can do to tower dive you. You always have your ultimate available. Calm and connected. Crashes the wave, and he's happy because Gangplank is always expected, for the most part, to have a deficit in the early game, and he even went with a Cole out of the disrespect for Hanser after that kill.
He gets the Sheen, you're like, all right, that's because he wants to be able to keep his own. But once he gets solo kill, you're right. The disrespect saying, all right, I can just farm it up now. What are you going to be able to do to me, Lee Sin? You got nothing on me. That means this top lane, Team Liquid, are going to be so happy putting Jenkins on an island, and this gives Armeo so much more free reign to be able to play around. And I was talking about this just a little bit ago, how we've seen such intelligent play out of this jungler and how he's been able, in this game alone, to be able to keep tabs on Hyper without actually visually seeing him.
And calling it out to the junglers, right? Because so many times, or to his laners, when you know that information, but you're not telling your laners how to play around it, it's almost insignificant. It's like, well, I'm supposed to be able to tell my team what I am seeing, and then that informs them to make an intelligent decision around their laning phase. So I think that's what we saw earlier, but here comes Sword looking for a gank. Oh, he got the ult!
Ooh, nice Showmaker. Gonna be able to get the rock jump, but it's gonna be the Lunar Rush. Nice Buster Shot, though, to make sure that Moonfall did no damage to Tristana, and Ayla on the other side with an equalizer. They blocked down Yurson, getting the flash, too. That is a lot that has been blown by TSM Academy to be able to stay alive.
That's pretty good. You got 2 ultimates. You did trade for the 2 of Armeo and Harry, but those aren't that significant. If Ayla can hit level 6 soon, they'll still be in a position to fight Yon. Flashes away.
To flash. Had to. If that Zenith Blade connected, Yon was dead meat easily. Even if Hyper doesn't have that ult, it's still a lot of damage that can come in from this Diana. And unfortunately, that missed position out of Yon means that this should be the dragon picked up by TSM Academy. But on the other side, they're losing so much more gold to Jenkins. They don't stop this Gangplank soon, Crumbs. I feel like this is going to be a 1v9 showdown for Jenkins.
Oh, we've seen it too many times. A melee composition against a Gangplank. You're just asking to get barreled, right? It's only going to be Cody Sun that can kill barrels. See, that's the problem with so many melee champions into GP. He's got barrels galore. He's got a wine cellar in your entire base, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Is that what pirates drink? Wine?
It's rum. It should have been rum.
Yeah, I was about to say. I'm like, I feel like if you're gonna go with rum, or even if you said grog, I think I would accept that because it's Runeterra and so mythical and whatnot.
Yeah. All right. Gragas. He's helping out Gragas. Gragas and Gangplank are best friends.
I was gonna say maybe Gangplank just buys all these barrels off of Gragas. I think that's the lore, right? Is that Gragas sells his his ale or whatever it is that he has in his cask, and that's his whole idea, is trying to see if he can go around Runeterra to get the best alcohol possibly.
Somehow I find it hard to believe that Gragas likes to share what he drinks.
Oh, you got a good point. But right now, Cody-san, having to use that defensive ult like that with one simple pull coming in from Ayla means that Cody-san is now going to be very vulnerable, even if he has heal and flash up. Xayah is so reliant on holding on to that Featherstorm for the upcoming fights.
That's going to keep your son down here, too, because if Ayla and Yon are 2v1ing Cody-san without ult, he can't defend himself against that. So he needs that ability, or he needs the Leona to help him out.
There you go. Nope. Hey, yeah, there you go. Oh, hey, back off. You don't know where Leona is. They pinged it bot lane. You don't want to play that aggressively. But yeah, it's the fact that Yurson now has to kind of stay around the spot lane whenever Cody-san is passing there. The reason Yurson was able to go mid lane that time is purely because Cody-san had recalled. It gave a little bit of freedom, and now Yurson is trying to make these plays. You just utilizing the Hex Flash. I love Hex Flash personally for this reason. The fact that you can get someone like Yon out and get a Moonfall from Hyper to lock down Kai'Sa and give Diana a first kill.
That was sick, all right? The Hex Flash didn't go over. Instead, waited for the Diana to be in range, and they now get a really nice kill that's going to have some plates in the bottom. That's not going to get that tier 1 just yet, but you do get something for TL to answer the aggression of TSM. So they are making plays. You can just see that they really need to find the right timing for it, because it's not easy for them to find these opportunities, right? You had Yon with no flash. Here comes Armeo and the TP.
Yeah, TP from Harry. They got a lot of damage. Equalizer. And look at Cody-san. Even with a heal and flash, could not get away from Harry. That is an easy pickup from Team Liquid.
That was perfect positioning on the Rumble Equalizer. And then Harry just ulting him into it. Here's another 1v1, though. I think Jenkins wins this.
Yeah, Hanser, you don't want this one. Look at that damage that can come in from this Gangplank, and he can heal so much back up with some oranges, with the corrupting pot, that Hanser's realizing that this lane is pretty much forfeit.
Yeah, he now has to keep Lee Sin from going next to the wave to minimize that spell vamp. So I think he's just going to stack this up and maybe try to take a recall, because now he doesn't know where the Diana is at. She just made a play bot side. It could be a little bit dangerous, and he's almost at his mythic item, so he can play it cool.
Oh, good trade there from Hanser, getting a little bit of damage back onto Jenkins, even having Hyper nearby, but this level lead from Jenkins is going to make it so that Hanser just has to wait it out, has to make sure that he's playing so much safer than you normally want to be able to play as Lee Sin. Hell, I'd imagine that Hanser soon wants to bail completely out of this lane, maybe try to make a play mid lane.
He wants to use his kick, right? You got to get somebody up here. That's part of the Lee Sin value. It's just kicking somebody in the face straight into your team. But the only time was when Diana was shadowing him. That one didn't get anything done. So right now, he's just going to have to look for that opportunity, because Lee Sin's value isn't just in the team fight. Yeah, he's flashy there, but in the laning phase, it works really well too. A ward hop behind them, or even if they step up past the minion wave, is a guaranteed way to get that back kick.
And until then, until we see Hanser able to really impact either even his own lane or a team fight soon, since he has TP up and available to be able to help out somewhere else, he's just going to be sitting around, waiting it out. Ooh, nice flash in from Yurson. Locking down Yon. No cleanse still to speak of. Flashing away to be able to survive. They got a little bit of damage onto Ayla, who has to flash too. Armeo, they want to see if they can turn it around. They got the equalizer. They pull back in Hyper to be able to give a kill over to the jungler.
Ooh, that is a beautiful combination there. Ayla and Armeo are on point with the synergy there. Right? They lay down the carpet after the equalizer, but here is a suplex who just doesn't work. It just doesn't work against Tristana. You got countered in lane. There's no way for Set to correctly jump on Tristana and get a kill.
Well, it's kind of what we talked about. The fact that Tristana can stay so safe, and unfortunately for TSM Academy, they kind of needed a play like that to work out. They needed Sword to be able to find that solo kill. That's a lot of difficult skill expression you're now putting on it to this mid laner, since everything's going awry in the other lanes. Top lane, not going the way they wanted to. Bot lane, they lost another kill in that bot lane. This time it was on the Hyper. Their Diana, they need to be doing so well, as we did. Get a look at this replay.
So the beautiful thing was they actually knew the cleanse timer. It was not up for Yon. He was not able to immediately QSS out, but then Hyper maybe could have walked back a little bit longer, but I still think Ayla and Armeo would have been able to turn it around. That is just beautiful, guaranteeing yourself that one kill, but a 1v1 where Hanser is forced to kick Jenkins out of lane. These two guys still duking it out, just watching as their team wins on the other side of the map. Maybe some emote spam reminding them, hey, my team's winning, and we're just chilling.
And you can tell right there, too, TSM Academy wanted to make a play top lane. They had called Yurson and Hyper, but Ayla was quick on that call, too, being able to join up Armeo, just in case there was an attempted dive onto Jenkins. They weren't going to let this Gangplank get dove too easily, and now TSM, they're scrambling. They're trying to get whatever they can. They're jumping onto this Rift Herald, hoping that it's going to be enough.
They see it. The ultimates are available for everybody. Harry won't have his, but they gotta be scared. Gangplank, just base of this Trinity Force, still has the ultimate, and it's level 2.
Oh,
so
no.
It's just a free leash. Thank you very much, says Team Liquid. We'll take that one.
Easiest leash ever. They easily grabbed that. And look at all these mythics completed across the board for Team Liquid. You had already talked about the Trinity Force, but there's the Rocket Belt, there's double Kraken Slayer for their 80 carries, compared to that of only the Gorge Worker on the other side. Maybe they can have some recalls come off to be able to get themselves up to snuff, but until then, this is a huge discrepancy between the two teams.
It really is, actually. They are polished. They are clean. Everything is prepared, ready for battle, and TSM still scrambling. They're putting some items together, though, but it is a little bit later. And you now have the 3 completed from the top jungle and the AD carry, so it's going to be only Sword missing with his Stride Breaker. But if he keeps matching his Harry, that Stride Breaker is not going to do much except just close the distance for him to get Buster shotted back again. They need so much help to take down this Trist on the side lanes.
They do, because you can see how much damage comes in from Harry. Anytime Sword steps up, you're like, I'm a pseudo tank, I got a shield, and it doesn't matter. So with this, Hyper trying to jump onto Ayla, but you can see already there is going to be a collapse coming in from Sword with that Haymaker punch. Equalizer on the other side getting so much damage, 1-for-1 trade, and with the explosive charges, enough it is to take down Sword. 2-for-1 exchange favoring Team Liquid.
They baited that whole thing. Everybody was in range for that fight. Tristana now gets to shove the bot lane. It's such a win for them. The Gangplank continues to harass the top side. He's scaling fine. He doesn't have the ultimate.
Hunter, do you want this, though? I don't know if he truly wants this. He thought he had that Conqueror to be able to get enough damage back onto Jenkins, but there it is. The oranges to stay okay. And even though Lee Sin was able to force off Gangplank for now, like you mentioned, that was without an ult from Gangplank.
That's why he looked for it. He used that ult in the bot side, and that's what makes it so hard to play around this bot lane fight that we're going to take a replay of again, because he's jumping onto the Nautilus, which is really not the ideal target when you've got carries nearby. Already so much of this you see used. You see the carpet being laid down by the Rumble. A pretty cool use of Buster Shot. I don't know if it was calculated that it would have that much damage because the heal looked really close, but the fact that you get the kill means you're going to get the credit.
I think it was 2 stacks up as well onto the explosive charge, so it had even more damage to make sure Sword died there. It was one of those moments where you have like a zillion bomb on your head, right? And you're just like, it doesn't matter, I'm dead. We can try all you want, but I have a bad feeling about this.
There's so many dots like that. I guess Zillion ult or Zillion bomb isn't really a dot, but it kind of feels like it, where it's the inevitability of it.
It's that dread that you feel when you have a fed Zillion on the other side and you have the bomb on your head. You're like, I'm so dead.
The timekeeper, you've run out of time.
Touche, my friend, touche. But you know who hasn't run out of time just yet? It's Team TSM. They're still in this game, even if they're down 4,000 gold here at 19 minutes into the game. They still have their chances to be able to find these creative fights. We haven't yet seen Hanser try to actually join up to get these kicks onto the vital targets, such as Harry, such as Yon, just yet. He's been stuck trying to see if he can have this 1v1 fight against Jenkins this entire time.
And now, Harry and Jenkins will actually be very powerful, as Jenkins is about to complete his second item, but Harry already has his here too. His Phantom Dancer is done. Here comes Sword. He's by himself though.
Oh, he is. Even with the shield, I don't know if it's enough. They got the showstopper. They've dragged back in. Yon, he's still alive over the wall. The Equalizer's going to be able to rip apart TSM, though they jumped onto Ayla. They've got the trade of 1-for-1 for now. With Hanser here in the fight, they're going to be able to get the kill on the other side, coming in from Armeo, chasing down your son. They've already got the kill on the Hanser. Burned them alive, and only Cody's son survives.
Jenkins's Gangplank just came in at the very end and was pretty slick in that second barrel combo. Look at that, though. They are poised for Baron. I mean, this is a bit greedy. Yum does not have much mana, but he's putting a barrel down.
Okay.
20-minute Baron. Okay. Let's go.
Right on the dot as well. Harry does have TP to be able to join, but so does Sword. They could always try to see if they can mount a fight, since it is going to take quite some time at 20 minutes to be able to get that Baron immediately.
Yeah, they are just
they're going
steam ahead.
Okay, they got it.
It's huge. Huge.
Yeah.
Right? You get the Dragon in the bot side, you get the Baron as well, and now you're going to dominate the side lanes. That was probably the final nail in the coffin of TSM here. Looking for the fight. The Lee Sin's coming in early, but Sword is thinking, we need to go now. We're going to lose the Baron or the Dragon. So takes the Kai'Sa out for a wild ride. Beautiful outplay, mind you, at the very end. And then watch Jenkins here with this barrel, right? Bam! Triple chain to the top side, gets 2 people, forces the Cody Sun ultimate, allows Armeo to flash in, finish one of them, Ditz Yusan at the end. And that is it. A 1 for 4 and 2 major objectives.
Getting themselves that dragon, getting themselves the Baron at 20 minutes as well. That's the impressive thing in my book. The fact that they had that confidence to go straight for it and said, you know what, we've got this. There's no way they can stop us. And sure enough, they've got the objective. They're in a prime position now to see if they can take down some of these outer turrets, get even more of an advantage over TSM Academy. And we're only 21 and a half minutes into the game.
They are just revitalized from the spring split that was disappointing for them, because this Team Liquid has come out fierce. TSM is no slouch. I mean, this is a good team.
This is a team that had a huge run in the losers brackets at Proving Grounds. They might have lost to Zeus in the first round, 1-2, but then after that, they had this huge run, taking big wins where a lot of people thought they'd get knocked out so much earlier, and they kept proving everyone wrong. Now they've got to go up against this Team Liquid that looks revitalized, even though they've jumped onto Jenkins right here. He's flashed away. Here's the jump in from Hyper. Should be able to finally take down, get the shutdown necessary for Haunster.
He fought hard. He fought hard. He went down
1v3.
kicking and screaming, biting fingers off. He did not care. Right, a little bit more help. Maybe there was a Nautilus ultimate in there. Next time around, we could see this Gangplank actually 1v3, because the AoE from the Ravenous Hydra is perfect for those kinds of situations. So they still get the tier 2 into the top side. Maybe not as much as they would have liked, but
Is it a 1v3 though if you have an auto assault? I feel like that's cheating.
Yeah, but it's League of Legends, right? All the 1v1, you ask for a 1v1 at the Baron pit, and then there's always some dude showing up that's harassing you just a little bit. Maybe the Karthus ultimate from over top.
I hate that. Never respecting the true 1v1s, you're right, they never do. But you know what, I will say, the whole idea there from Jenkins is, how long did he distract 3 members of TSM Academy? There are 2 turrets in that top side. They had the tier 1 and tier 2 still standing, yet how long it took to kill Jenkins was enough time for Team Liquid to take both those structures.
Yeah, they're going to be able to take more now, too, because they are grouping up around the Dragon blue side. So they want the tier 2s of mid and bottom. And if they don't get him, well, they'll also set up for the next dragon. So it's 2 birds with 1 stone, or as my new favorite way of saying that one, you feed 2 birds with 1 scone.
Ah, yes, I have seen that one. There's so many of those cool euphemisms that are just slightly different based off countries. I like that one too. But right now, looks like Ayla has got the pick onto Yurson. Nice solar flare on to Armeo on the back line, so they're getting a lot of damage. But that equalizer damage, it's huge onto Hyper. Just trying to see if they can tickle Yurson. He's barely alive, limping away. Nobody has died, but the control has been ceded over to Team Liquid as Yurson has to be so careful of the cannon barrage.
Greedy out of Jenkins. He can get a kill right there. There's nothing corralling them together in that area, so they can easily dodge out to any side, but it's still going to get them the dragon. So at the end of the day, TL still wins out on that fight. Sword, what you doing? Got to back off.
There he is, going to be the rock jump buster shot with so much damage. Where's the Haymaker Shield going to be able to come in and try to save his life, but it cannot. Killing spree for Yon.
Look at the timer. Just as he died, the flash came back up. These teams are on point with tracking these summoner spells today.
They are doing great. I gotta give huge prompts over to Team Liquid Academy and their coach Spawn, and how they've clearly shown that they are here to win. They are here to outperform what had happened in spring. They don't want to have another one of those mistakes in the Proving Grounds where they get knocked out 0-4, not winning a single game. They want to see if they can be the champions for summer.
And with a great start too, right? It starts with a solid foundation, a great game 1 to really show you what you're capable of, makes the whole team believe in itself. And I'm starting to believe now. It's a best of 2 though, so I think TSM experimented some here that they won't try again with the quadra melee comp. So I think that next time around game 2, we're going to see a little bit of a difference out of them, because what TL drafted feels like they got away with just too much.
Right, it's the quad melee in it. Jenkins Gangplank 2, one of his more favored picks there. I think it's Aatrox, Kennen, and Gangplank are his 3 most played champions in his entire career. So you've given over something that not only is he really confident in playing, but is also strong in the meta currently.
And against your composition. So you check the 3 boxes of what you shouldn't do. It happened here, but it's you're warming up. The season has just started. This is why we got these best ofs. It's going to be a competitive season because if anything, Proving Ground showed us how competitive it can be between the LCS teams and even the amateur scene, as the winners were a team not in Academy. It was no org.
Right, it's a lot closer than anyone thought beforehand. The amateur and academy scenes are very close. Maybe there's talent in NA. Who would have thought? Anyways, getting into this game here, Baron is going to spawn up already again, because how soon Team Liquid were able to take it previously, and TSM, they're not going to be caught out this time. They are trying to see if they can be proactive, make these plays. That's what we talked about before, what their composition has to do. Sadly, it's just fallen short of being able to actually make anything work.
It's costing them. The time they're going on these little expeditions around the blue side for Vision is really hurting them, because Jenkins now took tier 2. Right? He's a menace in the bot side. He's got 3 items already with the Serpent's Fang, which is great against whoever he sidelanes. Both Sword, Hyper, and Hanser will have shields on their champion. It really will work out and allow him to 1v1 any of them.
1v1 and one-shot them. They're just going to be popped like weasels. As you can see right here, looks like Ayla thinks that he's caught out Hyper, but he goes golden to be able to survive at the moment. Unfortunately, now that more reinforcements have arrived, they give a rampage over to Yawn. Jenkins again, 1v3, trying to see if he can fight back. Look at the barrel damage coming in onto Hanser, trying to see if he can get a little bit more, and he's still running away. Gonna be the showstopper, but the blast cone! Jenkins, he makes it out alive.
Jack Sparrow gets out alive. He's just fending off the goons while his team's taking the Baron. This is entirely theirs. There's no chance of a steal.
No. Wow. God. So many times, so much has been thrown at Jenkins. And like you said, we got to call him Captain Jenkins Sparrow there, because he is unkillable. He just is able to get away so much. And his team getting that Baron again right under the nose of TSM Academy. That, if it wasn't the nail in the coffin beforehand, it certainly is now.
He saved his oranges to the very end, but really the key play in that was when Ayla and Armeo, and even Harry, that joined in that and actually took down Hyper, the blast cone death charge onto the Diana. It's just so easy to execute. This is what we talked about in Champ Select Magical, where Nautilus is just so incredibly simple at punishing the mistake. Oh, there's somebody here? Great. Press R. So do you, Armeo, when they get knocked up, and suddenly you got yourself the pick on the most important member around taking these objectives, and you can take a free Baron.
And even with the stopwatch, it doesn't matter. And that also shows you how this game is going, because normally you want to be able to get that Nashor's Tooth as Diana. And with this pick again onto Hyper, he goes golden, but what does it really do? He flashes over the wall to be able to survive, and that means that he's now corralled and taking all that damage from the barrel equalizer combo, getting an unstoppable Armeo as Hanser barely able to escape from Harry on the other side of the fight.
Ooh, Hyper went on a firewalk there, and it wasn't voluntary. He just had no place to go, just cooked alive. The Gangplank ultimate as well. Now there's even less chance of an engage. Hanser is half HP'd. Double siege from the marksman is getting real. Tristana's about to crash her own wave on the bot side too, so their pressure is building.
And once she gets there, that turret is certainly to fall. We know how quickly Tristana can take these turrets. And you can see they're trying to make sure she's not going to be able to stay it. The one lucky thing for TSM Academy is the wave management here is a little bit off. It's not perfectly crashing at the same time for both teams, well, both lanes for Team Liquid Academy, which means they have to peel off and instead try to see if they can get the Ocean Soul.
Should be free. It's Lee Sin that is going to be the closest to make it, but there's not even any abilities that can really steal here. Maybe if he gets a crazy kick, it's already too late. There's
and look at the pick. They got the pick too. They've easily been able to blow up one onto Jenkins, but look at the equalizer damage coming in with Armeo over the wall. Golden Flame Spitter doing so much damage, roasting him. The shield from Hanser trying to be able to survive, but it's jump in coming in. Double kill for Yawn, making a triple kill as they force back TSM Academy once more into their base.
They came in and they took him down. It was not even close. They're so fed. They can just stay in the fight because they know they've got the Ocean Soul. And I gotta just hand it off to Armeo there. He is really on point with this Rumble. The equalizers have been so disruptive. Yeah, he's fed, but the positioning always matters. And every ult he's landed has been great for just spreading TSM apart.
Hyper got a little lucky and fortunate there that the minion spawned at the perfect moment to be able to save him from Ayla, but that hook landing onto Cody-san means that he has forced away. The game has ended here for Team Liquid Academy as they make one final fight to pick up more kills, but we knew this game was over long ago.
Team Liquid Academy really showed up in this first game. They had a solid composition, answered everything TSM threw their way. Never felt like TSM had a chance, really. Laning phase all went TL's way. They held it firmly and never let go.
Well, and gotta give massive props over to Jenkins in that top lane. The solo kill to start it all off, gangplank into Lee Sin, as many people have talked about Lee Sin being one of the strongest laning champions. The fact that Jenkins was able to take him down and keep that control the entire time is massive for what Team Liquid were able to do throughout that entire game.
Right, you could leave the top lane alone. You can count on Jenkins to hold it down, so all the focus can now go into the bot lane because you saw the attempts TSM had on mid lane. Impossible. The Diana set could accomplish nothing against the Tristana counter of the set, and so with only one lane to fight, when you're dealing with the Nautilus, the Rumble equalizer, and then you lay the Gangplank ultimate on top of it, it was always going to go TL's way.
It really was. It was a well-played game coming in from Team Liquid Academy. And when we get ready for our next game, you're just wondering if they're going to be that fortunate to get a draft very similar to that into the quad melee that we saw on Team TSM Academy side.
I think TSM will not do that again. I have a feeling that you see that, hey, just ease of execution, ease of engage is very important because they saw just how simple it was for Armeo to play the Rumble with the Nautilus combination. So it's something that you could easily pick up and take yourself. So I fully expect a side switch that will give us a wildly different approach to the game from TSM.
Well, we'll only find out in a bit when we actually get into the draft. For now, we're going to toss to a break. We'll be right back to break down that game a little bit further and get ready for the second game of the best of two. Stick around.